The story begins in a world filled with danger, where a young adventurer found himself staring up at a terrifying wall of giant worms. He lunged forward with a desperate cry, his blade flashing as he struck at the monstrous creature with all his might. It is said that there exist 9 distinct races in this land, and looking at the boy's strained face, the hierarchy was clear. Suddenly, a powerful dragonute named Drago, level 512, stepped in to shield him, asking if Light was all right. An elf named Sasha, level 308, joined the fray, scolding Light for getting ahead of himself and calling him troublesome. They were joined by Diablo the demon, Nano the dwarf, and Abaro the ghoul. People whispered that this place, the Abyss, was one of the most brutal dungeons in existence. Center the Centaur and Shin the Dark Elf were confident, boasting that as long as their party, the Gathering of Races, combined their power, even this dungeon would be a walk in the park. Garu the Beastman stepped forward, telling Light that he was right to be afraid and should leave the fighting to them and stay back. He demanded to know if the human understood his place. This was Light, a mere level 15 human. Light knew the truth all too well. Humans possessed average strength and were looked down upon as the weakest of the 9 races. He could only agree with a quiet yes. Looking into the deep, cavernous dungeon known as the Abyss, they chided him for his recklessness. Sasha warned him sternly that in the Abyss, the most difficult and brutal dungeon, he would die in a single hit, knowing fully well how weak he was. Garu the Beastman teased Sasha, remarking that she was always so kind to Light. Sasha flustered, yelling "Geez," before demanding Light show her his wounds, while Light apologized for being so useless. She stammered in a classic display of denial, insisting she wasn't worried about him at all. She claimed she was only concerned that losing a member of the Gathering of Races would ruin their reputation. Light apologized again for causing trouble. The others laughed, teasing Sasha as she yelled at them. They agreed the two fit each other well and chided her for not being honest. Drago reassured him, saying that the tea Light made was enough reason to keep him around. Light thought to himself that despite humans being called the weakest, his party treated a 12-year-old like him very well. They were good people who treated everyone equally. He beamed with happiness, saying yes, glad that he had joined this party. Eventually, they arrived at a well-lit area within the cave, a rare safe spot in the darkness. They noted that the area had only one entrance and seemed secure. Ah, the classic single-entrance safety check. In the history of dungeon crawling, that sentence has a survival rate of exactly 0%. Light innocently asked if they were taking a break and began to prepare the tea. But then the cold words were spoken. They had decided to kick him out of the party. Light stammered, thinking he had done something wrong, promising to stay back. But they cut him off, clarifying they kicked him out because they simply didn't need him anymore. The demeanor of the party shifted instantly. They sighed in relief at finally getting rid of the dead weight, complaining about how miserable it was to share space with a human. The elf scoffed, wondering if all humans were this bad at reading the room or just dumb. She revealed that their kindness had been nothing but an act to let him into the party. Drago explained that compared to other humans, Light offered a specific, better gift to them. Light realized they were talking about his rare chance gift obtained at 10 years old, the unlimited Gacha. It was a mysterious power he didn't quite understand, a gift he had been lucky to receive. He explained that by pushing a button, he received a card which could manifest objects into the real world. However, as everyone knew since he got it 2 years ago, it was a useless gift, producing only moldy bread or damaged spoons. Light was confused, but they repeated that this uselessness was exactly why they didn't need him anymore. They revealed they had only brought him along for observation. The higher-ups had suspected he might be a master with a mysterious gift. But the conclusion was reached: he was not a master, his gift was trash and his status was merely human. Light asked, bewildered, what a master even was. The elf shuddered, recalling how disgusting it was to act friendly. She laughed at how funny it was to see him act friendly back. She had only done it for her country to accept the blood of a master, but the thought of marrying a human gave her goosebumps. Drago noted they had said too much. Light, still on his knees, tried to make sense of the words master and country. The order was given to clean up before other adventurers arrived. They couldn't let him leak any information. They clarified that while kicking him out was the stated plan, the truth was different. Orders from above demanded he be eliminated. To eliminate the seed of disaster, they were told to kill him just in case. They coldly told him to die and get kicked out of this world. The beastman lunged, claws bared, striking at the defenseless boy. Light desperately tried to believe it was a prank, but the beastman roared with laughter, declaring it was finally fun hunting time. Because nothing screams elite warrior quite like needing a full party of high-level monsters to ambush one confused 12-year-old. Light's mind raced, struggling to reconcile the nice people he knew with the murderers standing before him, shouting to kill everyone. Tears streamed down his face as he whimpered, asking if they were really going to kill him. He tried to run, but they mocked him. Even if he did run, a mere human couldn't outrun monsters in the abyss. An arrow whistled through the air as they shouted they wouldn't let him run, piercing his leg as he tried to flee. He tumbled to the ground, screaming in agony as he rolled across the rocky surface. The attackers reveled in his pain, shouting that his expression and scream were exactly why they couldn't stop hunting humans. A heavy boot slammed into him with a solid kick. Coughing up blood, Light dragged himself across the ground, desperate to get away. His cries of pain echoed in the cavern as the agony overwhelmed him. The others joined in, clamoring for a piece of him and asking to try some torture magic. But Sasha stopped them, warning that any more wounds would look suspicious. The cover story was that he died attacked by a monster, so they couldn't play with him too much. The beastman pinned him down, offering a twisted form of mercy, a quick death without suffering as thanks for the entertainment of playing with him. Light screamed no, one last time shouting "Die Light" in his own mind as the final blow descended. He whimpered that he didn't want to die, his body being dragged across the floor. Even as he coughed and clung to life, the beastman found his persistence annoying, while the others urged him to finish it. The beastman licked his chops, saying the struggle made him want to pummel Light even more. Light's thoughts swirled in confusion. He was going to die without knowing anything, asking what this master thing was. Surrounded by his betrayers, he realized with finality that no one was coming to save him. Escape was impossible. The gap in their races and levels was simply too vast. And yet, as he was dragged, a tiny spark of defiance remained. The Dragonute looked down with utter disdain, remarking on how disgusting humans were. Said the walking handbag who probably sheds his skin on the living room furniture. Talk about projecting. Despite the fear and the pain, Light reached out, his soul screaming that he still didn't want to die, that he wanted to live. Suddenly, the ground beneath him erupted in light. A magic circle activated. Before the beastman could finish him, Light vanished. They cursed, realizing he had triggered a teleportation trap. Light reappeared in a different, darker part of the cave, panting heavily, wondering if he had been saved. He lay there, battered and broken, realizing he got away thanks to the teleportation trap. He looked around, asking where he teleported to, realizing he was still inside the dungeon. Tears welled up in his eyes again as the adrenaline faded and the pain returned. He curled up, sobbing uncontrollably, asking the darkness why he had to suffer like this. Alone in the dark, he cried out for his family, missing his dad, mom, brother, and Yum, wishing only to go back to his village. Light questioned the unfairness of it all, lamenting that he was just someone from a farming village who didn't want to die without seeing his family again. He recalled how his plans didn't go well and his money dried up. That's when the gathering of races invited him, and he foolishly thought he could finally help his family by going with them. He remembered their inspiring words about creating an equal world together. He trusted them, respected them, and was grateful for the kindness they showed him, or so he thought. But now, realizing the truth, he gritted his teeth in pure rage. He screamed that they had lied about everything. They had laughed at him, humiliated him like trash, and dragged him underground to kill him. He shouted in frustration about their excuse of killing him just in case or because of some master's suspicion. He cursed them, demanding to know what a master even was. His eye glowed with ominous energy as he swore a blood oath to kill them all. He forced his battered body to move, declaring he would die as many times as it took to get his revenge. He refused to just sit there and rot. He swore to return to his family and take his revenge, no matter what kind of monster he encountered. Suddenly, he froze. A massive, terrifying wolf loomed over him, growling. Light realized with despair that he was going to die no matter what. He panicked, realizing he was too late and the blood had led the monster right to him. He stammered, unable to process the creature's level. The status screen appeared, identifying the beast as a hellhound level 1000. Light stared in disbelief, screaming level 1000. He wondered why something straight out of a folktale existed here. He looked around the jagged cave, wondering if the teleportation trap had dumped him in the deepest part of the abyss. He reasoned that only the deepest part could explain the presence of a legendary grade monster. He shivered uncontrollably, not knowing where to go but knowing he had to run. He scrambled to flee, telling himself he had to run, because surely his level 15 legs could outpace a legendary beast. The optimism of the desperate is truly something to behold. But he stopped, realizing the futility. A level 15 human couldn't possibly escape a level 1000 monster in the deepest part of the abyss. The hellhound, revealing it had two heads, growled down at him. Light cried out that he couldn't die yet. He frantically checked his pockets for a knife or flint, realizing he had no way to defend himself. Then he remembered the only thing he had left was his gift, unlimited gacha. He screamed like hell, refusing to let it end like this. He shouted for something, anything, to come out, crying that he hadn't met his family yet. He begged for something to distract the monster, hoping for anything better than the usual rotten buns or boots. A massive, intricate magic circle expanded beneath the hellhound. The hellhound paused, confused by the sudden light appearing. Light watched in confusion as light spun around rapidly. The spinning intensified. The hellhound growled, unsure of what was happening. The beast lunged and Light flinched. The massive jaws opened wide to devour him. Light thought this was the end, resigning himself to seeing his life flash before his eyes inside a monster's mouth. Suddenly, a slash cut through the air. A cold voice spoke, appalled that a beast dared to point its fangs at her lord. The voice declared she would show no mercy, even to a dog. A beautiful maid stood amidst the carnage, her presence radiating power. She landed gracefully, surrounded by the shattered remains of the level 1000 monster. Talk about a cleanup crew. She didn't just kill the dog, she practically deleted it from the source code. Light stared at her, completely stunned. She floated in the air. This time our boy got his first monstrous girl, trust me, it's only first. The story starts with the sound of a splash and a kneel echoing in the darkness. The maid admitted that although she might have overstepped her boundaries, she could not stand the sight of her lord's injuries, so she took the liberty of healing them. She then looked at him and praised his wonderful features and his skin, describing it as beautiful as pearls. Light noticed his wounds were healing and exclaimed in shock that it didn't hurt anymore. He then turned to her and sincerely apologized for his selfish actions. The maid spoke, complimenting his beautiful voice, and asked if he could please tell her his name. Light stammered that he was Light. She repeated Light-sama softly to herself, savoring the sound of his name. With a flushed face, she declared that it was a wonderful and noble name. She proclaimed that she could even die for her lord. She stated that she lived for him and devoted everything to him as her life as a maid. She leaned in close and swore her eternal loyalty to her lord. Light, overwhelmed, stuttered and tried to find the words to respond. She thanked him very much and apologized for her late introduction. Light stammered a sure, but she asked if she might have the privilege of introducing herself. A status window appeared displaying her information as a level 9999 seeker maid May, a SUR card. She introduced herself as SUR level 9999 seeker maid May. She explained that she was summoned by Light Sama's gift, unlimited gacha, as a SUR card. Light was bewildered, asking if she really came from his unlimited gacha, and questioned if she was really level 9999 and a super ultra rare card. She vowed that she would be in his care even after death. She promised to become a bird of wings in the sky and said her loyalty would become ever-growing on land. Light thought to himself that there was no way she was level 9999. May continued, promising that as long as she was by his lord's side, whatever monster might reside in this dungeon, she would never let it lay even a finger on Light Sama's elegant skin. Light fell to his knees, thinking there was no way his unlimited gacha could summon someone as strong as May-san, believing that even a human coming out of gacha was impossible. He lamented that his gift could usually only produce nothing but trash. May interrupted him with tears in her eyes, begging him to just call her May. She insisted that he did not need formality in front of a maid like her. His generous heart, saying it was as expected of Light Sama. She thanked him from the bottom of her heart for listening to this servant's request. Light awkwardly tried to say her name. She asked if she might have the liberty of confirming it with her identify skill. She stated it was impossible for Light Sama's majestic instrument, unlimited gacha, to be a defect. Light asked if she meant she wanted to use identify. He agreed by all means, while realizing that technically it was only one of the skills he possessed. He was surprised that May had the gift identify. She activated identify and the system glowed. She noted that anyone lower level than her would not be able to see the details. She asked him to pardon her rudeness as the system beeped and thumped. She marveled at his amazing powers. It seems blinking lights and loud beeping noises are the universal language of overpowered abilities. She smiled and admitted that, as expected of Light Sama, she could not see the depth of his powers. She explained the ranking system, listing X as extreme, SUR as super ultra rare, as ultra rare, down to normal and error. She stated that the thickness of the surrounding magic affected the result of his unlimited gacha. She noted that mages use magic in the air and asked what that meant. She explained that unlimited gacha absorbs that magic and produces cards. She reasoned that in that sense, the chance skyrocketed when he came down here where the magic is thick. However, she noted that the magic in the air on the surface was very thin, so summoning a SUR like her would be almost impossible there. Light realized that all he knew was that he could summon someone as awesome as May in the bottom of the abyss. He thought to himself that he could only understand half of what she said, but he saw the point. She praised him, saying it was just to summon her. She called him someone worthy of the devotion of a maid for understanding the uniqueness of his unlimited gacha and coming down to the lowest floor by himself. She noted that he could have endangered himself if he encountered a monster. She started to say that coming here all by himself with his status empty-handed was reckless. She stopped herself and asked if something was the problem. She vowed that as a maid, she would forever be by his side from now on. Light told May, who had misunderstood everything, the truth. He explained that he couldn't endure the thought of his teammates betraying him and cried halfway through. He told her how he ended up like that in the bottom of the abyss by himself. May wrapped her arms around him and hugged him tightly. She cried, realizing that a maid like her could never even understand Light Sama's painful experiences. May suddenly turned menacing. She asked him to please give her the order. With her name as a maid on the line, she vowed to bring those rotten eggs' heads to her lord within an hour so he could befall judgment on them, as long as he wielded her power. Light panicked and told her to wait. He stated that mercy is meaningless, even though she argued that she understood Light Sama was a kind person. Light clarified that wasn't it. He explained that he had no means of showing mercy towards them. He looked at the jagged landscape and admitted that he trusted them and was tricked. He looked down at his hand and said it was because he was weak. He clenched his fist and declared that he would become stronger and get his revenge on them. Light wondered if May thought a mere human like him couldn't do it after all. He declared that he wanted to know everything about the master and the country that tried to kill him. Nothing motivates a protagonist quite like a checklist of enemies to destroy. May bowed and said if Light Sama wished to get revenge with his own hands, she asked him to allow her to assist him in the name of the maid. She declared that Light Sama's wish was also her wish. Light smiled brightly and thanked May. May blushed deeply and lowered her head, saying his kind words were wasted on her. Light narrated that he would have to create comrades and his own kingdom down here in order to achieve his plans following May's suggestions. 3 years have passed since the betrayal. The story resumes in the deepest, most treacherous part of the abyss, a place where sunlight never reaches. Footsteps echoed through the silent halls as a group of uniformed maids walked with purpose. Light, now older and exuding an aura of authority, greeted them warmly, telling everyone they had done good work. He smiled gently as they responded in unison, thanking their master. The professionalism evaporated instantly. The maids erupted into squeals of fanatical devotion, one screaming that she wanted to lick the floor even if it was just a hair from Light Sama's toe, while another called her a pervert. They celebrated their luck that Light Sama had actually spoken to them. Light giggled, taking their obsession as a sign they liked him, but another maid. She asked for permission to shut all the noisy fairies up. Suddenly, a voice cut through the noise. Light recognized it immediately as a girl shouted that she wasn't an idiot. Light smiled, realizing they were in the training center. Inside, a cat-tiered beastkin, a witch, and a hooded figure stood together. Nazuna was eager to prove herself, declaring she would show them she could do the multiplication table as proof of her intelligence. But she didn't know. The witch looked at her with pity, calling her an unbelievable idiot who couldn't even do the tables. Light entered the room, noting that everyone was gathered. Nazuna immediately abandoned her math lesson and jumped at him, screaming his name in joy because he had come to see her. The witch, Iri, was appalled. She scoffed that there was no way Light Sama came to see someone lacking elegance like Nazuna. She struck a pose, declaring she was always ready to bear Light Sama's heir. Iri teased Nazuna for acting like a pervert when she was just a virgin, then shamelessly invited Light to her room. Light panicked, demanding to know where she learned such things. Nazuna, completely innocent, claiming the fairy maids taught her the words. The hooded figure, Aoyuki, silently latched onto Light's leg. Nazuna complained that it wasn't fair that Blue Snow always got to cling to him. Light admitted he couldn't help himself because she looked like a cat, scratching Aoyuki's chin while Nazuna protested the unfair treatment. Light called for attention, saying it was time to get to the point. He told Aoyuki to listen as well, announcing he had something to tell the three of them. He began to speak of his past, admitting that his body still froze whenever he saw a hellhound. He looked down, sweat forming on his brow, confessing it was because of what happened 3 years ago. The three girls instantly emitted a terrifying, dark aura. They expressed their disgust that a mere dog would dare act so rude to Light Sama. They ranted that they had been kind enough to let the species live, but for raising a fang against Light Sama, judgment would befall them. They suggested erasing the species both physically and from history records. They declared that upsetting their master was enough reason to erase the hellhound's existence right then and there. Sending it to hell wouldn't be punishment enough. You have to admire the loyalty. Most friends just buy you ice cream after a breakup. These girls are ready to commit genocide on a species of dogs. Their status plates revealed their terrifying power. Nazuna the true vampire knight, Iri the forbidden mage, and Aoyuki the monster tamer, all level 9999. The hellhound in the room shivered in terror. Light reassured them he was fine now, pointing out that the dog was scared too, so they could stop releasing their level 9999 strength. Nazuna switched from bloodlust to cheerfulness instantly. She declared she always prioritized Light Sama's words and would forgive the dog if he said so, admitting it was cute if you got used to it. The hellhound remained petrified. Nazuna asked what he wanted to tell them. Light thought to himself that if he told a half-hearted joke, they really would make the species go extinct. He smiled broadly, announcing that May had contacted him. The prey had been caught, and he wanted everyone to get ready. Iri sighed, disliking that May got to bait the prey, but agreed to prepare properly. Nazuna cheered, congratulating him and promising to work hard too. Light looked at his powerful comrades, telling them he was counting on them. They vibrated with excitement. Light took a deep breath, his expression hardening. He declared that after 3 years it was finally time for their revenge. The first one was up. The scene shifted to Akura, the major city of the wolves in the Beastmen Alliance. Garu walked through the streets, soaking in the praise of the citizens who called out to him as Big Bro Garu and asked for his stories. Garu smirked, reveling in his status as the most powerful candidate for the next chief of the wolf race. He demanded respect and praise in his mind. Later, in a luxurious room, he downed a glass of sake, savoring the taste. Surrounded by sycophants, he lounged on a sofa. His underlings poured him more drinks, telling him how popular he had become. They stroked his ego, calling him the star of the Beastmen orphanage, the one acknowledged by the wolf chief and the super-rich Garu-sama. Garu lectured them, claiming a beastman needed to use their head and senses to differentiate things by smell and achieve the best results. He hinted at the secret mission of the Gathering of Races 3 years ago. He bragged that he got a huge reward just for killing a brat, calling it a delicious job, though he feigned secrecy claiming it was a state secret. He scoffed, thinking it was easy money for killing a confused kid. They had concluded Light wouldn't survive the abyss after the teleportation trap, so everyone was rewarded even though they never found the body. Suddenly, Garu flinched. He wondered what this master rumor was that had every country active. His keen senses picked up the smell of death, warning him of danger. He swirled his drink, thinking he could rise to the top if he wanted to. For an orphan who knew nothing but violence, he had come far. He envisioned himself at the very top of the hierarchy. A voice interrupted his thoughts, excusing the intrusion. Mei stood in the doorway. Garu, drunk and arrogant, laughed and demanded the best sake, asking if she was a fan. He squinted at her, calling her a bitch for speaking casually, but then paused, realizing she was a pretty high-quality human woman. His danger sense is tingling, but apparently his libido is on a separate, louder frequency. Mei introduced herself as a maid who swore eternal loyalty to Light Sama. Garu choked on his drink, stammering the name Light. Mei politely asked him to kindly lead her to where Light Sama was last seen. Garu quickly deduced that she was looking for Light because they couldn't find him. He realized she had come to him, a former member of the party, for answers. He assumed she was an idiot for wanting to go to a death scene. He decided to play along, offering to compensate her properly, flashing a bag of money that could buy a mansion. Internally, he was suspicious. The whole country had investigated Light. He wondered if they missed something, if Light had noble blood, or if this woman was mistaking him for someone else. Greed and lust took over. He decided she was too good to pass up. He figured he could have some fun with her, and maybe the Dragonoot leader would owe him a favor for handling this loose end. He planned to have fun during this investigation, confident he had backup plans if it was a trap. He even considered selling her into slavery once he was done with her. He put on a friendly face, asking if she was telling the truth and agreeing to guide her to where Light was last seen. He lied smoothly, saying the abyss was dangerous and he couldn't let her go alone. He claimed Light was a really good friend of his, and this was a request from his people. He promised to gather his men and escort her safely, swearing on his name as the next chief. He drooled at the thought of escorting her, while Mei thanked him with a bow. Garu thought maliciously that he would mess this one up good, just like he did with Light. He was fired up to repeat his crime at the scene of the original betrayal. A 12-man party, accompanied by 10 beastmen, headed for the abyss. Thanks to the beastmen's scouting, they reached the depths without a single battle. They arrived at a cavern in the middle floor. Garu announced this was where Light was last seen. He spun his web of lies, claiming Light had bad luck and triggered a teleportation trap during an ambush, disappearing right in front of them while heavily injured. As he walked, he signaled his men. They blocked the only exit. He thought smugly that they could do whatever they wanted now. He smirked, thinking these inferiors were pushovers who couldn't react in time. But Mei began to speak, apologizing to Light that she couldn't protect him back then. She looked around the cave. disgusted to think that these rotten eggs had betrayed him in such a dirty, dark place. She lamented that if only she had been by his side earlier, he wouldn't have suffered such heavy wounds. Garu jumped back, alarmed. He wondered how this bitch knew the details of Light's wounds. Sweat poured down his face. He demanded to know what she was. Only the party members and the highest brass knew the truth. His men looked at him, confused by his sudden panic. He accused her of being a spy for another race, his composure cracking. May's aura flared, dark and menacing. She repeated that she had sworn her eternal loyalty to Light Sama. She threatened to find out the color of his insides for insulting the way of the maid. Garu flinched, feeling a terrifying pressure pinning him down right there and then. He tried to rationalize it. She was just a female, just prey. Yet the almighty Garu was shivering uncontrollably. A wave of overwhelming pressure slammed into the beastmen, making them gasp for air. The minions shook in terror, unable to move, realizing they were about to be killed. Suddenly, a voice commanded May to stop, saying it wasn't her turn yet. Light stepped forward from the shadows, flanked by his new, powerful comrades. He looked down at his former friend and declared that the order especially applied to Garu. Light smiled cheerfully and announced to Garu that he was there for his revenge after 3 years. Garu chuckled, realizing it was just a brat, and expressed his shock that Light was actually alive. He demanded to know how a human brat had sneaked up on them. The wolf burst into laughter, mocking Light as a level 15 fry, and asking if he seriously thought he could take revenge against him. He shouted that humans were really idiots. Garu calculated that if he brought the brat's corpse back, the Dragonoots would owe him one, and the wolves would rise to the top. He admitted he didn't know how Light survived, but marveled that he would show himself right in front of him. Light sighed, noting there was a lot to think about, like how he was alive or his relationship with May, but observed that Garu didn't think enough, as always. Garu conceded that the little miss over there had unreadable powers. However, he insisted that us beastmen wouldn't lose to an inferior because they had the numbers, boasting of 10 elites over level 130. He scoffed that Light was just lucky she lent him a hand, calling him an average human with a weird gift, and claimed they had checked every little detail about him. Light shrugged and admitted that Garu was technically right. Garu roared, calling him a weakling who couldn't even see the gap between their strengths. He called Light naive and stuck out his tongue, asking if he really thought he could get revenge just because that little miss might be able to go against them. Narrator note: sticking your tongue out is definitely the ultimate power move of a high-level warrior. Turning to his subordinates, Garu yelled at the idiots to go block the exit already and asked what they were standing there for. He commanded them not to let Light get away, promising they wanted some delicious memories and claiming the wolf beastmen would go to the top when they killed this brat. The subordinates stammered their understanding and acknowledged Big Bro Garu's orders to circle him. They dashed forward, thinking that with this, they would get closer to the side of the top, believing Lady Luck was finally there. They reached the destination. Suddenly, the wolves gasped in confusion as a giant wolf head dropped onto the ground in front of them. May stood firm, declaring she would not allow that. Light told May he would rely on her to seal the exit. May bowed, promising to perfectly finish her job with her name of the maid on the line. The remaining beastmen panicked, retreating and asking what she did, terrified because their heads just fell off without them seeing anything. Garu gritted his teeth, insisting they wouldn't lose to an inferior as long as they weren't reckless. He shouted that it was a fluke and told the idiots to calm down. Light's expression darkened as he told Garu not to screw with him. He asked if they had thought of the fact that they were just weak, sighing that they still looked down on people even after 3 years. The beastmen argued back, asking how they could lose to inferiors that can't raise their levels, mocking their physical weakness and little magic power compared to their ability to raise levels. Light stated plainly that in this world, your level determines your value. Garu bragged that there was no way Light was stronger than them, displaying his status as level 158 and claiming he was in another league compared to inferiors, ah yes, level 158. A truly impressive number, assuming your opponent isn't currently rewriting the laws of physics. Recited their own logic back to them, born with specialties and levels the source of weak humans. He mocked the idea that because he is human, there's no way he's better, and he won't lose because he's weaker. Garu sweated, wondering why the heads were rolling on the ground over there. He decided it must be some lame trick and yelled at Light not to get cocky. He howled, rallying everyone on his lid, shouting that they didn't have time for petty tricks. The entire pack lunged at Light with knives and claws, shouting "damn it." A series of dull bonk and oof sounds echoed as their weapons struck Light uselessly. The attackers recoiled, screaming in pain and coughing as their attacks bounced off him. Light looked at them with wide, innocent eyes and asked what was wrong. His expression shifted to pure menace as he asked, "Is that all?" leaving Garu paralyzed with fear. Sounds of splashing and coughing filled the air as Light lay battered in the water. Garu grabbed him by the collar, screaming that he was just an inferior. Light wobbled unsteadily on his feet. Garu roared, demanding that Light not look down on him. He swung his claw with a whoosh, shouting not to think it would be that easy. Light simply looked at him unfazed. Garu declared he would let him feel despair. He crushed something in his hand with a bang and shouted, "Come." A light shone brightly as he revealed Fenrir, explaining it was a magic item, a monster ball with a high-level monster inside. He explained that it moved exactly as he said, allowing him to summon high-level monsters when he broke it. He grumbled that it would disappear in about an hour, and cursed that he had to use something so damn expensive on him. A massive wolf emerged with a deafening roar. Garu laughed maniacally, introducing his trump card, a level 500 Fenrir. His subordinates watched in awe, praising Garu-sama for having such a beautiful and strong monster. Garu told Light he would make him regret not killing him just now. Light sighed and asked if that was really his trump card. Garu laughed, asking if Light was so scared he lost his mind, as Light commented that it was way too weak. Garu insisted it was a level 500 that would blow away anything thrown at it. He realized Light's previous defense must have been a magic item. He taunted Light, telling him to come on and beg for his life just like 3 years ago. Light sighed and said okay. He told Garu to stick his head to the ground, and if he could make Light laugh, he might change his mind and not kill him. Light spread his arms and declared he wouldn't move even a bit from there, telling Garu to do what he wanted with his boring trump card. Garu snapped, screaming that he would turn Light into ashes just like he wanted. He ordered Fenrir to do it. The wolf unleashed a massive monster breath cannon. The subordinates panicked, noting it was the focused magic power of a level 500 and definitely a one-hit kill for an inferior brat. Light swiped the attack away with his hand like it was nothing, asking that's all. He remarked how annoying it was that Beastmen really exaggerated everything. Garu stared in disbelief, sweating profusely as he realized there was no damage. He realized the only explanation was a huge gap in level and power. Light announced it was his turn now. Garu panicked, unable to comprehend that Light's power was far higher than an all-out attack from a level 500. Light declared he would show him the real one, stating that calling that big dog over there a Fenrir disrespected the name. He held up a card, SUR level 9000 Monster Founder Fenrir. He called it the real deal. The card glowed brilliantly as he released the summon. A magnificent glowing white wolf appeared behind Light. Light coldly ordered Founder Fenrir to kill that dog over there. The wolf blew a freezing breath. With a loud clack, the fake Fenrir was instantly frozen in a block of ice. The ice shattered, destroying the monster completely. The dust settled, leaving only the majestic Founder Fenrir standing tall. Light smiled and praised the terrifying beast, calling it a good boy and telling it great job. Garu fell back onto the ground, trembling in terror. Light remarked that he could have killed that thing in a second even without the summon. Garu stammered, asking how he had something like a level 9000. Garu looked at Light, trembling uncontrollably as the realization hit him. He realized that the light before him was level 9999 after all. Light's status board flashed the number 9999. Garu screamed in incoherent terror as the realization of the impossible number hit him. Light cheerfully added that May was the same as him, displaying her matching 9999 level. The beastman stammered that there was no way, noting that a human's average level was usually around 100. Garu realized Light was the real deal and wasn't messing with the status boards. He reasoned that his level 500 monster couldn't do anything against him, which proved the gap in power. Garu gasped, noting that a human brat should have grown more in 3 years. He stuttered, asking if it was really Light, shocked that he hadn't changed physically at all. Light closed his eyes and explained that he used a wristband of immortality from his gacha to stop his growth. He confirmed that his face and height hadn't changed a bit. He opened his eyes, revealing a cold intensity, and stated he did it because he wanted to remember those feelings: rage, sorrow, and despair. Garu recoiled, thinking this guy wasn't the Light he knew, but something like a monster from another dimension. Terrified of being killed, Garu slammed his head into the ground in a perfect doja. He screamed that he was terribly sorry for all his rude behaviors until now. Sweating profusely, Garu shouted that it wasn't his own will but an order from the country, begging for forgiveness. His subordinates yelled in confusion, reminding him that he had called this a delicious deal. Garu snapped at them to shut up, telling Light he could do whatever he wanted with these guys. Garu continued to sell them out, claiming they scared away the employer and ate the skewered meat together, desperate to prove he wasn't the only guilty one. Light looked down at him with cold eyes. Garu flinched, stammering that since he confessed, it should be all right to let him go. The subordinates screamed, calling him a coward and pleading with Light. Light silenced him, demanding he first tell him what this master was all about before discussing letting him go. Garu stammered that he didn't know, claiming he was only told to find the master by the upper brass. He insisted he didn't know why the country wanted to kill Light or why they were looking for the master. He explained that beastmen don't have as many skills as other races, so the country didn't tell them anything. He claimed they only had superior abilities to raise levels faster, so even chiefs wouldn't know deep secrets. Light hummed thoughtfully and asked about the others. The subordinates frantically chimed in, claiming they heard some stuff and knew something too, hoping to trade information for their lives. Suddenly, the heads of every subordinate flew off their bodies in a spray of blood. Light stood calmly amidst the carnage. He stated that from what he saw, they were trying to trick him and had no intention of letting him live either. He declared that having no info deserved 1,000 deaths. Light turned back to the trembling Garu, saying he wanted to ask one more thing before they moved. Garu shook with fear. Light asked if they fought against all the countries on the surface right now, could us right now win? Garu sweated, admitting that while Light-sama was indeed powerful, they would only have the advantage for a while. He argued it would be almost impossible to win against all of them, reasoning that however high Light's level was, he was still just an individual after all. Garu estimated that at most, half or one-third of the world could be destroyed. He pointed out that countries possess thousands of years of history and legendary-grade weapons and armor. Light listened, shivering slightly with a smile, saying, "I see." He smiled broadly, declaring it was just as he thought. Light said they should get going and told Garu to answer that question again when they were there. Garu was confused, reiterating that they had limits no matter how strong they were. Light held up a card and activated teleports. A magic circle enveloped them and they vanished from the wasteland. They reappeared in a massive, paved hall with a whoosh. Garu stumbled, looking around in confusion, asking where they were. His eyes bulged out of his head as he saw what was in front of him. Before them stood an endless army of soldiers and beasts, lining a path toward a throne. Garu stammered, unable to comprehend the scale of the place. Light walked confidently forward, his boot clicking against the stone floor. He walked past the kneeling guards and monsters, heading straight for the throne at the top of the stairs. Light ascended the stairs and sat upon the throne. From his high vantage point, he looked down at his vast army. Light ordered everyone to raise their heads and display their status boards. A sea of status boards appeared, filling the air with numbers like level 5,000, 6,000, 1,500, and 9999. The numbers continued, showing levels of 8,500, 3,000, and 20,000. Light noted that this was all from just 3 years. Light revealed his total power raised was over 110 million. He leaned forward on his throne, smiling confidently, and asked Garu again, "Can we win with this army against all the people on the surface?" Garu screamed in pure terror, unable to form words, his mind broken by the sheer scale of power. He realized this was destruction itself. He sat on the floor, wailing that this guy was destruction itself. Light smiled, saying he was now confident with that reaction. He stated that they made this monster because they decided to kill him. He told Garu he would show him more despair and suffering as a reward, letting him have some fun without dying before the other races were gone. Garu thought that destroying the world was just like destroying wooden block toys for Light. He realized Light had the power to destroy everything as he liked. Garu wondered if Light was a god or something else to lead an army enough to destroy the world. Light mused that for the world's greater good, after achieving his goals, he wanted to use his gift. He liked the sound of being a god. He decided he would base his choice on what the truth was and what he should give the world with his gift. He pondered if it would be for the greater good or for evil, depending on the truth the world hides, why they wanted to kill him, and what the master is. Holding up his cards, he wondered which he should become, a gift holder that bestows wealth and happiness, or one that curses with death and despair, except for humans, of course. Light spread his arms, declaring that the 3 years he spent underground were over. He announced it was time to come up from the abyss, from dark to the light. With his party behind him, he ordered them to advance, to seek the truth and revenge. A few days after the revenge against Garu, the group prepared to set off for their next plan. Light knelt before 2 simple wooden crosses, visiting the graves made for his dad and mom. He referred to it as his former village, a label necessitated by the fact that someone had completely destroyed it. Light explained that teleport was unusable outside the abyss, and since it was deeper than expected, returning to the surface had been difficult. He noted that they came to the village immediately after finally dissolving the restrictions and escaping the abyss. He realized that while he was stuck down there for 2.5 years, the village had been reduced to nothing but rubble and silence. Light screamed into the void, asking why something like this had to happen. He used everyone's power to investigate, but the strong wind had wiped away all traces, leaving the culprit a mystery. He searched the whole village but found no trace of his brother or Yum, which was the only fortunate thing. This meant there was a faint hope they were still out there, so he dispatched spies to find the culprit. He finished greeting his parents and decided to depart immediately to find an inn before sunset. Gold complained, saying he didn't want to camp outside on their very first day of traveling. Nemomu scolded him for his attitude while Light Sama was grieving, demanding he speak with respect. Light sighed, telling Nemomu that formalities were awkward, and reminding her that she wouldn't want to camp outside either. Nemomu declared she would sleep in trash for him, telling Gold not to lump her in with the likes of him. Gold retorted that a true golden knight would willingly stay in blizzard storms or blazing magma for his lord. However, he quickly pivoted, arguing that for Light's comfortable sleep, they should definitely avoid camping, proving that even legendary knights are terrified of sleeping on hard ground. Nemomu panicked, warning Gold that pushing their lord too much might make Light dislike him. She suddenly burst into tears, wailing that there was no way Light Sama would hate them. Gold sighed at her drama while Nemomu vowed that even if she became a spirit, her duty would never change. Gold noted their lord was too nice. Light laughed, assuring them he was fine and asking Gold to stop teasing her. Light introduced his guards, level 5,000 Assassin Nemomu and level 5,000 Golden Knight Gold. Gold announced the start of their journey, Light admitted his heart was racing and agreed to avoid camping. Nemumu warned Gold not to mess up. Gold agreed, noting they needed information after all. Light stated they would initiate the adventurer plan, while Eri prepared the revenge against Sasha. Nemumu noted their power was sufficient, but agreed they shouldn't be stupid enough to start a war against the world blindly. Light warned there might be other odd gift holders like him out there. He cautioned that ignorance could lead to defeat. Nemumu insisted no one could match him. Light insisted on caution, especially regarding the mysterious master whose identity remained unknown. He emphasized that gathering information was crucial for their revenge and finding the master. Light doubted his village's destruction was random, suspecting a connection to the master. He theorized they destroyed the village and tried to kill his parents just in case. They might one day threaten them. He vowed that if the world's truth was evil, he would turn it all into hellfire and burn it down. Trembling, he promised his parents he would reveal the truth and get revenge. Light placed a clown's mask on his face with a clack and said, "Now let's go." Gold told him to suppress his killing intent so he wouldn't stop the hearts of normal citizens. Light remarked on finally walking on the surface. Gold teased Nemumu for shaking. Nemumu denied being scared, and they declared their journey as adventurers had begun. Nemumu asked if they were heading to the city in the Dwarf Kingdom right now. Light confirmed, explaining it prospered because a dungeon was discovered there. Light reminded them that when they are there, his name isn't Light, but Kuro. He declared that from now on, he is Kuro, the adventurer trying to raise his rank and reputation. He explained he chose Dagas because it was far from where the gathering of races used to move around. He noted that if they got wind of this, his revenge would fail, so he'd rather find out more about the master while undercover. He reasoned that higher ranks give better information, so they would raise their ranks until Eri's revenge plan against Sasha was completed. They arrived at the foot of the mountain where the city and dungeon were located. Gold complained that walking through the forest path was annoying because he would definitely stand out in the city. Gold's priority is clearly being a shiny disco ball rather than stealth. Just as they were about to exit the forest, Nemumu spotted something. Light sighed, noting they looked like dwarf bandits and definitely not a friendly party. The bandits demanded they hand over everything. The bandits yelled at the golden guy to come out, noticing his flashy armor. Gold stepped out, laughing that he stood out too much and would shine forever. The bandits licked their lips, calling it their lucky day and noting he had a good woman for a human. Light noticed a carriage with a parent and child being attacked. He told Gold to handle this side while he went for the victims. Gold invited the bandits to try and steal his armor, though Light reminded him not to kill them. A bandit swung a steel hammer at Gold's helmet, but it shattered upon impact with a loud smash. The bandit stared in horror at his broken weapon. Gold flicked the bandit with a single finger, sending him flying with a slam. Gold declared he would teach them the spirit of a knight, calling them bugs attracted to his armor. On the other side, Light told the bandits he would let them go if they stood down. The bandits laughed, boasting they were over level 200 and calling him an inferior bastard. Light sighed. Nemumu acknowledged Light's order and unleashed a slash. She moved faster than they could see, striking them down without killing them. The bandits collapsed. Light told the victims they were lucky. The rescued man and child approached, asking who they were, amazed by their strength. The man offered to do anything for them since they saved their lives, apologizing for the carriage situation. The child marveled that Kuro-sama was much stronger than the dwarves. The man realized they must be adventurers heading for the dungeon. The man asked if they were famous adventurers. Light corrected him, saying they were just planning to register as adventurers. The man advised them to go for dungeons if they wanted to rank up faster. He confirmed the dungeon there was well known among people. He explained Dagas was a prospered town near the Elf Kingdom, which sometimes caused conflicts. He added that it might be perfect for them to rank up since even a lot of humans visit the place. The man admitted he had lived there a long time, but had never seen humans as strong as them. They arrived at Dagas, the southernmost town of the Dwarf Kingdom. The man thanked them again and asked if they were okay with just being dropped at the entrance. He then revealed that he actually ran an inn mainly for humans. Light accepted the offer, saying they would visit if they were looking for an inn. They said bye-bye to the kid. Light noted the man looked capable and it was a good encounter to start with. Walking into the city, Light observed the many weapon and armor stores, noting dwarves were known for smithing. Nemumu scolded Gold for looking around so much that he'd get lost. Gold argued he had an unnecessary landmark right next to him. They finally stood before the Dagas Guild. Light declared this is it. The group arrived at the Adventurers Guild, noting it was much livelier than the streets outside. Nemumu slammed her hands on the counter, screaming impossible, when the receptionist treated them like normal beginners. The receptionist explained everyone starts as F rank. Nemumu shouted that F rank was absurd for Kuro-sama. She demanded he be made an SSS rank immediately, refusing to be bound by logic. Nothing says we are humble beginners like screaming at the receptionist to make you a god instantly. Light dragged the fuming Nemumu away while Gold laughed at her lack of composure. Light apologized to the terrified receptionist for his followers' rude behavior. Outside, Gold teased Nemumu for losing her cool, while she groveled on the ground apologizing to Light. It was getting dark, so they decided to find an inn. They found Colonel's Inn, which looked decent enough. The innkeeper welcomed the unusual party of a masked boy, a maid, and a giant golden knight. Light said he had 3 selfish requests while staying there. He requested the entire highest floor for a month, with absolutely no staff allowed up there. He handed over a heavy sack containing 300 gold coins. Light smiled and told the stunned owner to think of the overpayment as a gift. The owner bowed, promising to do his best, because dropping a literal sack of gold on the counter is definitely the best way to keep a low profile. In the room, Light activated magic nullification and anti-eavesdropping spells, so they could talk freely. He reassured them the money was real, provided by comrades acting as merchants, not counterfeit created by his gacha. He explained he didn't want to crash the world's economic balance by printing infinite money. Nemumu asked why he came himself instead of sending minions from the abyss, worrying about the non-zero risk. She stuttered, asking if he was trying to rob her of her revenge. A terrifying dark aura leaked out of her as she asked if Nemumu was getting in his way. She instantly snapped out of it and apologized profusely for overstepping boundaries. Gold laughed, explaining that as a man, Light sometimes needed to achieve things with his own hands, even if dangerous. Light praised Gold's understanding. Nemumu apologized for getting emotional and scaring him. She begged to be allowed to display her loyalty once again to make up for it. Light awkwardly excused himself to sit down. She kissed his toe, a ritual known as loyal slave. Light blushed, admitting he found it embarrassing, but everyone in the abyss insisted on doing it. Gold watched and casually asked if it was some kind of foreplay. Nemumu exploded, screaming at him not to call her loyalty to a boy 3 years younger than her getting in heat. Gold is asking the real questions here, though perhaps not the most appropriate ones. Light stopped the bickering, announcing they would enter the dungeon tomorrow. He noted they would prioritize that while waiting for Erie's preparations. The next day, they saw the long line for the dungeon entrance and the shops catering to adventurers. They joined the queue. Light observed the mix of races, noting elves were rare because they hated dwarves. Light wore a hood to hide his identity, though the group still stood out. They adopted a formation, Gold in front, Nemumu in back, and Light in the middle. Nemumu suggested it to ensure nothing happened to Light. Light noted the precaution involved the back of his head pressing against her soft chest, but decided to go along with it. A classic tactical formation known as the protagonist sandwich. Suddenly, a group cut the line in front of them. It was 3 hooded figures. Light analyzed them, a small leader, a baggage carrier, and a well-trained guard. The victims were a young party who didn't know what to do. Seeing the victims were his age, Light decided he had no choice but to act. Light tapped the line cutter on the shoulder, cheerfully saying, "Let's not jump in lines now, you people with hoods on." Light stared at the hooded figure and asked coldly if he had just given him an order. The hooded man asked if Light knew who he was talking to. Light shot back that he didn't think there was anyone else cutting in line. Light mocked him, saying that if he was famous, it was shameful to cut in line. He asked, "How am I supposed to know when you're under that hood?" Light leaned in and whispered, "Don't tell me you're drunk at daytime." Gold burst into laughter behind him. The man raged, but Light cut him off, lecturing him that he was troubling people who followed the rules. He called him stupid and told him to line up at the back. The crowd rallied behind Light, shouting that the boy was right and urging the line cutter to move. The hooded man sighed, calling the crowd bugs for obeying rules and stating they were just there for him to step on. He reached for his weapon, threatening to go that far. Gold stepped forward with a heavy stomp looming over the man. Terrified, the man stammered an apology to his own follower and ran away. The crowd cheered for Light. Gold laughed as the crowd praised Light for saying what everyone was thinking. The young party Light had saved approached him shyly. They thanked him profusely, explaining they didn't know what to do against someone with such high pride. The young leader thanked goodness for people like Light, adding that his mask was cool too. One of the members stared at Gold and asked the forbidden question, "Is that armor real gold?" Nemumu immediately answered, "It's fake." She claimed he just wore it to stand out. Gold laughed it off. She explained that bandits always attacked them thinking it was real gold, so they were used to it. The young leader apologized for his cocky friend, calling the armor his obligatory interest. Gold folded his arms, explaining it was a gold alloy mixed with rare materials for high durability. He insisted it was the best way to get people to remember them as a party, because nothing says stealthy adventurers like a walking lighthouse. The young leader looked at them curiously and asked if it was their first time in this dungeon. He noted they brought no camping equipment at all, recommending they bring some next time. He explained that unlike other dungeons, the area gets bigger the lower you go, so people usually camp inside. Light realized they were the only ones standing there, with barely anything while everyone else had heavy packs. Light thanked him for the info. The guild staff called for the next party. As the young party left, Light muttered that they were so used to item boxes they forgot to bring fake luggage. Nemumu worried that item boxes were rare, and it would be odd if all three of them had one. Light decided they would think about it inside the dungeon. Light admitted he was excited since this was his first time in a dungeon other than the Abyss. He thought he knew what dungeons were, but looking at the variety in this world, he had to reconsider. He mentioned the dungeon core, the heart of the dungeon, as the key to the mystery. He noted that even Eerie, their level 99/99 forbidden mage, didn't understand what a dungeon core actually was. He recalled the world's creation myth hints at their origin, but no one really knows. The myth stated the world was first covered by a black vortex. When the goddess shone her light, she created lands and 9 races. The evil god loved the goddess, but was stuck beneath the land when the vortex divided. He used the hole's dungeons to release his monsters, trying to reach her with his own hands. The 9 races fought the monsters to protect the goddess. And that battle continued even until now. The myth explained monsters were stronger underground, and at night because they were closer to the evil god. Some said dungeon cores were fragments of the evil god's life. Eerie had said cores absorb energy from stars and magic to create dungeons, though she didn't know how. They create monster spawners, minerals, environments, and treasures. Basically, the evil god is just a very generous game developer. They reached the end of the long stairway. Light looked out into the light, ready to see the dungeon made by the core.